Sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the opulent villa. Inside, the air was thick with tension, a silence that screamed louder than any argument. Zayden Al-Fahad, a wealthy and powerful Arab businessman, stood in the grand foyer, heart racing, hands trembling. A single photograph lay on the marble floor, its edges crumpled, the image forever burned into his mind. In it, his wife, Amal Zara, elegant and ambitious, smiled, radiant, carefree, her arm draped around another man. The driver, the betrayal cut deeper than any blade. He had trusted her, loved her, built a life around her. But now, as the last rays of sunlight faded, so did the last remnants of his trust. He could hear the distant sound of laughter from the garden, where guests mingled, oblivious to the storm brewing within. The clinking of glasses, the soft music, it all felt like a cruel mockery. How could she? How could she betray him in their own home, under the very roof he had provided? A sudden noise broke his reverie. A door creaked open, and footsteps echoed down the hallway. He turned, heart pounding, as Amal appeared, her face a mask of confusion. "What's wrong?" she asked, feigning innocence. He clenched his fists, the photograph still burning in his mind. "You know what's wrong," he replied, his voice low and dangerous. But before she could respond, a phone buzzed on the table, its screen lighting up with a message that would change everything. He glanced at it, a chill running down his spine. It was from the driver, Tahir Jamal, loyal on the surface but harboring dangerous ambitions. "I can't wait to see you tonight." The blood rushed to his head, and the world around him blurred. How had it come to this? The unanswered questions loomed like dark clouds, threatening to unleash a storm. Zayden was a man of power, a titan in the business world, known for his sharp intellect and unwavering resolve. The villa was a testament to his success: marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and art that spoke of wealth and sophistication. Yet beneath the surface of this luxurious facade lay a heart that was slowly crumbling. As he paced the grand hall, memories flooded back, moments of laughter, shared dreams, and whispered promises. Amal had been his muse, the embodiment of elegance and ambition. But now those memories felt tainted, overshadowed by the betrayal that had shattered his world. He glanced at her, standing there with an air of feigned innocence, her beauty still striking but now laced with deceit. She had always been emotionally distant, driven by desires he had never fully understood. What had he missed? What signs had he overlooked in his pursuit of success? The guests outside continued their revelry, unaware of the chaos brewing within. He could hear their laughter, their carefree conversations, and it made his blood boil. Little did they know, this day would change everything. The betrayal was not just a personal wound. It was a threat to his empire, to everything he had built. As he stood there, a sense of foreboding washed over him. Tahir, once a mere employee, had become a dangerous rival, a man who had crossed an unspoken line. The thought of confronting them both sent a shiver down his spine. He had always prided himself on being in control, but now he felt like a puppet with strings being pulled by unseen hands. The clock ticked ominously in the background, each second a reminder that time was slipping away. He needed answers, and he needed them fast. The stakes were higher than ever, and the game was just beginning. The moment Amal stepped closer, Zaidan felt the air crackle with tension. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice a mix of concern and irritation. But he could see the flicker of guilt in her eyes, a telltale sign that she was hiding something. He held up the photograph, the edges crumpling under his grip. "This," he said, his voice steady but laced with fury. "You and him, how long has this been going on?" Her expression shifted, the mask of innocence slipping away. "It's not what you think," she stammered, but he could see the panic rising within her. "Then what is it?" he demanded, stepping closer, his heart pounding in his chest. "Tell me the truth, Amal. I deserve that much." The silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating. Just as she opened her mouth to speak, the door swung open, and Tahir Jamal entered, a casual smile on his face that quickly faded upon seeing the tension in the room. "Is everything okay?" he asked, feigning concern, but the glint in his eyes betrayed him. In that moment, everything shifted. Tahir's presence was a catalyst, igniting the fury that had been simmering beneath the surface. "You," Zayden spat, pointing a finger at him. "You think you can just waltz in here and take what's mine?" Tahir's smile faded completely, replaced by a cold, calculating gaze. "I didn't take anything. She chose me," he replied, his voice smooth yet laced with arrogance. The words hit like a slap, and the room spun. The betrayal was no longer just a personal wound. It was a declaration of war. Zayden felt the ground shift beneath him, the weight of the moment crashing down like a tidal wave. "Get out," he commanded, his voice low and dangerous. "Both of you." But as they turned to leave, a chilling thought crossed his mind. This was just the beginning. The photograph had shattered everything he thought he knew, and now he was left with a choice: to let it go or to fight back with a vengeance that would leave everyone speechless. Days passed, each one filled with meticulous planning and quiet observation. Zayden watched Amal, studied her movements, and pieced together the fragments of their life that had once seemed so perfect. But the more he uncovered, the more he realized that the betrayal ran deeper than he had anticipated. One evening, as he sifted through documents in his study, a message pinged on his phone. It was from an unknown number, but the content sent chills down his spine. "I know what you're planning. Be careful." His heart raced. Who could it be? Was someone watching him? The thought sent a wave of paranoia crashing over him. He had to be cautious. The stakes were higher than ever. But the next day, he received a call that would change everything. Inspector Adil, a sharp investigator known for his integrity, wanted to meet. "I've heard some troubling things," he said, his voice steady. "I think you might be in danger." Danger? The word echoed in Zayden's mind, a stark reminder of the precarious position he found himself in. "What do you mean?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm. "There are whispers about your wife and the driver. It's more than just an affair. There are people involved who won't hesitate to protect their interests," the inspector warned. The revelation hit him like a punch to the gut. The betrayal was not just a personal wound, it was a threat to his very existence. Zayden felt the walls closing in, the weight of the world pressing down on him. "I need to know everything," Zayden said, determination hardening his voice. "I won't let them take what's mine." Inspector Adil nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "I'll do what I can, but you must be careful. Trust no one." As Zayden left the meeting, a nagging doubt lingered. What if the truth was more complicated than he imagined? What if there were layers to this betrayal that he had yet to uncover? The night air was thick with anticipation as he drove home, the city lights blurring past him. He was on the brink of something monumental, a reckoning that would change everything. But as he pulled into the driveway, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. A shadow flickered in the corner of his eye, and he turned, heart racing. But there was nothing, just the stillness of the night. He shook off the unease, determined to focus on his plan. The game was on, and he was ready to play. Days turned into a blur of surveillance and strategy. Zayden meticulously gathered information, piecing together the puzzle of Amal and Tahir's betrayal. But just when he thought he had a handle on the situation, a shocking revelation turned his world upside down. One evening, while reviewing security footage from the villa, he noticed something unsettling. Amal and Tahir weren't just having an affair, they were planning something. The footage showed them meeting in secret, exchanging hushed words and furtive glances. It was clear that their relationship was more than just physical. It was a conspiracy. Zayden's heart raced as he replayed the footage, each frame revealing a deeper layer of betrayal. They were plotting against him, and the realization sent a chill down his spine. He had underestimated them both. Just then, his phone buzzed with a message from Inspector Adil. "We need to talk, urgent." Zayden's pulse quickened. He met the inspector at a secluded cafe, the air thick with tension. "What's going on?" Zayden asked, his voice low. I've been digging into Tahir's background, Inspector Adil said, his expression grave. He's not just a driver. He has connections to some dangerous people. This isn't just about your marriage. It's about power and control. The words hit Zayden like a freight train. The stakes were higher than he had ever imagined. What do you mean? He pressed, desperation creeping into his voice. Tahir is involved in a larger scheme, one that could threaten your business and your life, the inspector warned. Zayden felt the ground beneath him shift. The betrayal was no longer just a personal wound. It was a threat to everything he had built. I need to confront them, he said, determination flooding his veins. Be careful, Inspector Adil cautioned. They won't hesitate to protect their interests, and you might be walking into a trap. As Zayden left the cafe, a storm of emotions raged within him. He was no longer just a betrayed husband. He was a man on the brink of a war that would test his resolve and redefine his life. The game had changed, and he was ready to fight back with everything he had. The tension in the air was palpable as Zayden prepared for the confrontation. He had spent the last few days gathering evidence, piecing together the betrayal that had shattered his world. Now he stood in the dimly lit study, the weight of his decisions pressing heavily on his shoulders. He had arranged for Amal and Tahir to meet him under the guise of discussing their future. The irony was not lost on him. He was about to confront the very people who had conspired against him in the place he had built for them. As the clock struck 8, the door creaked open, and Amal entered first, her expression a mix of confusion and defiance. Zayden, what's this about? She asked, her voice steady but her eyes betraying her anxiety. Sit down, Amal, he commanded, his tone leaving no room for argument. She hesitated but complied, taking a seat across from him. Moments later, Tahir sauntered in, a confident smirk plastered on his face. What's the emergency, boss? He asked, feigning nonchalance. Zayden's heart raced as he locked eyes with Tahir, the man who had crossed a line that should never have been crossed. You know exactly why you're here, Zayden replied, his voice low and dangerous. Both of you. Tahir's smirk faltered, and he exchanged a quick glance with Amal. I don't have time for games, Zayden. If you're going to accuse me of something, just say it. Zayden leaned forward, slamming a stack of photographs onto the table. You think I don't know what's been going on? The late-night meetings, the secret messages? You're not just having an affair, you're plotting against me. Amal's face paled, and for a moment she looked genuinely shocked. Zayden, Save it, he interrupted, his voice rising. I've seen the footage. I know everything. Tahir's demeanor shifted, the arrogance replaced by a cold, calculating gaze. You're making a mistake, Zayden. You don't know who you're dealing with. Enlighten me, Zayden challenged, his fist clenched. What's your endgame? You think you can just take everything from me? Tahir leaned back, a smirk returning to his lips. It's not just about you, Zayden. It's about power. You've built an empire, but it's fragile. I'm just the one who's going to help it fall. The words hung in the air, heavy with implications. Zayden felt a surge of anger and betrayal. You think you can threaten me? I built this empire with my own hands. I won't let you destroy it. Amal, who had been silent, finally spoke up. Zayden, please. This isn't what it seems. I never wanted any of this. Then what did you want, Amal? He shot back, his voice laced with pain. Did you want him? Did you want to tear apart everything we built together? Tears welled in her eyes, but Zayden felt no sympathy. You made your choice, he said coldly, and now you'll face the consequences. Just as the tension reached its peak, a loud crash echoed from outside, startling them all. Zayden's instincts kicked in, and he rushed to the window, peering out into the darkness. A group of men, shadows against the night, were approaching the villa, their intentions clear. Zayden, we need to get out of here, Amal cried, panic rising in her voice. But Zayden stood firm, his resolve hardening. No, this is my home and I won't let them take it from me. Tahir's expression shifted to one of concern. You don't understand. They're not here for you. They're here for me. The realization hit Zayden like a bolt of lightning. The stakes had just escalated, and the game was no longer just about betrayal. It was about survival. "Get behind me," Zayden ordered, positioning himself protectively in front of Amal. The confrontation was no longer just between them. It was a battle for everything he held dear. As the door burst open, the chaos erupted, and Zayden braced himself for the fight of his life. The lines had been drawn, and there was no turning back. The war had begun. The door flew open, and chaos erupted as masked men stormed into the villa, their intentions clear. Zayden's heart raced as he instinctively positioned himself in front of Amal, ready to protect her at all costs. The intruders, led by a tall figure with a commanding presence, scanned the room, their eyes locking onto Zayden with a predatory gleam. "Zaydan al-Fahad," the leader sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. "You've made quite a name for yourself, but it's time to pay your debts." Zayden's mind raced. He had heard whispers of dangerous dealings in the underworld, but he never thought they would come knocking at his door. "What do you want?" he demanded, trying to keep his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. The leader stepped closer, a menacing smile on his face. "Your empire is built on borrowed time, and it's time to collect. Your wife has been quite the distraction, but she's not the only one who's been unfaithful." Amal gasped, her face pale as she realized the gravity of the situation. "Zayden, I didn't know." "Silence!" Zayden barked, his focus on the intruders. He couldn't afford to show weakness now. "You think you can just waltz in here and take what's mine?" The leader chuckled darkly. "You're in no position to negotiate. Your wife's betrayal has made you vulnerable, and now you'll pay the price." Zayden felt a surge of anger. He had fought too hard to let anyone take his life away from him. "I won't let you destroy my family or my business," he declared, his voice firm. With a swift motion, the leader signaled his men to advance. Zayden's instincts kicked in, and he lunged forward, tackling the nearest intruder. A scuffle ensued, fists flying as Zayden fought with everything he had. He was fueled by rage and desperation, determined to protect Amal and reclaim his life. Amal, realizing the danger, grabbed a nearby vase and swung it at one of the intruders, catching him off guard. "Get out of here, Zayden!" she shouted, her voice filled with urgency. But Zayden was relentless. He fought off another attacker, adrenaline surging through him as he pushed back against the odds. The room was filled with chaos, shouts, crashes, and the sound of fists connecting with flesh. Just as Zayden managed to subdue one of the intruders, he felt a sharp pain in his side. He turned to see the leader standing over him, a knife glinting in his hand. "You should have known better than to cross me," he hissed. In that moment, everything slowed down. Zayden's mind raced as he realized he had to act fast. With a surge of strength, he grabbed a nearby lamp and swung it at the leader, knocking the knife from his hand. The blade clattered to the floor, and Zayden seized the opportunity to tackle the leader to the ground. The two men grappled, each fighting for dominance. Zayden's determination fueled him as he fought to protect everything he held dear. He could hear Amal's frantic voice urging him on, and it ignited a fire within him. With one final push, Zayden managed to pin the leader down, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "You'll regret this," the leader spat, but Zayden was resolute. "Not as much as you will," Zayden replied, his voice steady. He glanced back at Amal, who was watching with wide eyes, fear and admiration mingling in her expression. Just then, the sound of sirens echoed in the distance, growing louder. The intruders, realizing they were outnumbered, began to retreat. "This isn't over, Zayden," the leader warned as he scrambled to his feet, his men following suit. Zayden stood tall, adrenaline still coursing through him. "You'll think twice before coming back," he shouted after them, his voice filled with defiance. As the last of the intruders fled, Zayden turned to Amal, who rushed to his side, her eyes filled with concern. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I'm fine," he replied, though he could feel the adrenaline wearing off, leaving him exhausted. "But we need to talk." The sirens grew closer, and Zayden knew the police would soon arrive. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "This isn't just about us anymore. We need to figure out what's really going on." Amal nodded, her expression shifting from fear to determination. I'll do whatever it takes to help you, Zayden. We can face this together. As they stood amidst the chaos, Zayden realized that their fight was far from over. The confrontation had revealed the depths of betrayal and the dangerous game they were now entangled in. But it had also ignited a spark of resolve within him, a determination to reclaim his life and protect what mattered most. The police arrived moments later, their presence a stark contrast to the chaos that had just unfolded. Officers swarmed the villa, assessing the situation and taking statements. Zayden stood beside Amal, his heart still racing as he recounted the events to Inspector Adil, who had rushed to the scene. "Are you both all right?" Inspector Adil asked, his expression serious as he took in the disarray of the room. "We're fine," Zayden replied, though he could feel the weight of the night pressing down on him. "But we need to talk about what just happened. This isn't just a random attack. It's part of something bigger." Adil nodded, his brow furrowing. "I suspected as much. We need to dig deeper into Tahir's connections and figure out who's really behind this." Amal, still shaken, interjected. "Tahir was involved in something dangerous, wasn't he? I had no idea it was this serious." Zayden turned to her, his expression softening. "I should have protected you from this. I thought I could handle everything on my own." Amal reached for his hand, squeezing it tightly. "We're in this together now. Whatever it takes, we'll face it as a team." As the officers continued their investigation, Zayden felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had been betrayed, but he wouldn't let that define him. He would fight back, not just for himself, but for Amal and the life they had built together. In the days that followed, Zayden and Amal worked closely with Inspector Adil to uncover the truth behind the attack. They spent hours poring over documents, tracing Tahir's connections, and piecing together the web of deceit that had ensnared them. One evening, as they sat in Zayden's study, Amal looked up from her notes, her expression thoughtful. "What if we set a trap for Tahir? If he's involved in something bigger, we need to draw him out." Zayden considered her suggestion, a spark of admiration igniting within him. "You're right. If we can get him to reveal his plans, we might be able to stop whatever he's plotting." Inspector Adil nodded in agreement. "We can use a decoy. If we create a scenario that lures him in, we can catch him in the act." Zayden felt a surge of determination. "Let's do it. We'll make him think he's in control, and then we'll turn the tables on him." They spent the next few days meticulously planning the operation, crafting a scenario that would entice Tahir to reveal his true intentions. Zayden felt a sense of camaraderie with Amal that he hadn't felt in a long time. They were no longer just husband and wife. They were partners in a fight for their lives. The night of the operation arrived, and Zayden's heart raced with anticipation. They had set up a meeting at a secluded location, a place where Tahir would feel safe and confident. Zayden and Amal waited in the shadows, adrenaline coursing through their veins. As they watched, Tahir arrived, his demeanor relaxed as he surveyed the area. Zayden exchanged a glance with Amal, a silent understanding passing between them. This was it. Tahir stepped into the dim light, his arrogance palpable. "I knew you'd come," he called out, his voice dripping with confidence. "You can't resist a good game, can you?" Zayden stepped forward, his voice steady. "This isn't a game, Tahir. You've crossed a line, and now you'll pay the price." Tahir's expression shifted, surprise flickering in his eyes. "You think you can intimidate me? You have no idea who you're dealing with." Amal emerged from the shadows, her presence commanding. "We know exactly who you are, Tahir, and we know what you've been planning." The tension in the air crackled as Tahir's bravado faltered. "You're making a mistake. You have no idea what you're getting into." Zayden took a step closer, his voice low and dangerous. "I'm not afraid of you. You've underestimated me, and that's your biggest mistake." Just then, Inspector Adil and a team of officers emerged from their hiding spots surrounding Tahir. "You're under arrest for conspiracy and attempted assault," Adil declared, his voice firm. Tahir's eyes widened in disbelief as he realized he had been trapped. "You think this will end well for you?" he spat, his bravado crumbling. You have no idea who I'm connected to. Zayden stepped forward, his heart pounding with a mix of triumph and relief. I don't care about your connections. You've threatened my family, and now you'll face the consequences. As the officers moved in to apprehend Tahir, he struggled against their grip, but it was futile. Zayden watched as the man who had tried to destroy his life was led away in handcuffs, a sense of closure washing over him. Amal stepped beside Zayden, her expression a mix of relief and pride. We did it, she said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. Zayden turned to her, his heart swelling with gratitude. We did it together. I couldn't have done this without you. As the officers secured the area, Inspector Adil approached them, a satisfied smile on his face. You both handled that remarkably well. I'll make sure Tahir faces the full extent of the law. Zayden nodded, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. Thank you, Inspector. This isn't just about revenge. It's about protecting what's ours. Adil placed a reassuring hand on Zayden's shoulder. You've shown great strength, Zayden. But remember, this is just the beginning. There may be more challenges ahead. Zayden took a deep breath, the adrenaline slowly fading. I'm ready for whatever comes next. I won't let anyone threaten my family again. As they walked away from the scene, Zayden and Amal shared a moment of understanding. They had faced the storm together, and it had only strengthened their bond. The road ahead would be uncertain, but they were determined to face it side by side. In the weeks that followed, Zayden and Amal worked to rebuild their lives. The aftermath of the confrontation with Tahir had left its mark, but it also ignited a newfound sense of purpose within them. They were no longer just a wealthy couple living in a luxurious villa. They were partners in every sense of the word. Zayden focused on his business, determined to strengthen his empire and ensure that no one could threaten it again. He implemented new security measures, both for his company and his home, ensuring that he and Amal would never feel vulnerable again. Amal, too, found her footing. She began to take an active role in Zayden's business, using her skills and ambition to contribute in ways she had never considered before. Together, they forged a new path, one built on trust, collaboration, and mutual respect. One evening, as they sat on the terrace overlooking the city, Zayden turned to Amal, a smile playing on his lips. I never thought we'd come out of this stronger, but here we are. Amal smiled back, her eyes sparkling in the fading light. We've faced the worst, and we've come through it together. I believe we can handle anything now. Zayden took her hand, feeling a warmth spread through him. I want you to know that I'm sorry for not seeing the signs earlier. I should have trusted you more. Amal squeezed his hand, her expression softening. We both made mistakes, but we've learned from them. What matters is that we're here now, together. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the city, Zayden felt a sense of peace wash over him. They had weathered the storm, and now they were ready to embrace the future. Months later, Zayden and Amal stood together at a charity gala, their first public appearance since the turmoil. The atmosphere was filled with laughter and music, a stark contrast to the chaos they had endured. As they mingled with guests, Zayden felt a sense of pride. They had turned their pain into purpose, using their experiences to help others. The charity they supported focused on empowering victims of domestic abuse, a cause close to their hearts. Amal, radiant in a stunning gown, caught Zayden's eye from across the room. She was speaking passionately to a group of attendees, her confidence shining through. He couldn't help but admire her strength and resilience. As the evening progressed, Zayden took the stage to address the crowd. Thank you all for being here tonight. This cause is incredibly important to us, and we believe that together we can make a difference. The audience applauded, and Zayden felt a surge of hope. He continued, we faced challenges that tested our strength and resolve, but we emerged stronger and more united than ever. It's a reminder that no matter how dark the path may seem, there is always a way forward. Amal joined him on stage, her presence radiating warmth. Together we can create a world where everyone feels safe and valued. Let's work towards a future where love and trust prevail over betrayal and fear. The crowd erupted in applause, and Zayden felt a sense of fulfillment wash over him. They had transformed their pain into a powerful message of hope and resilience. As the night drew to a close, Zayden and Amal stepped outside onto the terrace, the cool breeze refreshing against their skin. The city lights twinkled like stars, a beautiful backdrop to their journey. "Look how far we've come," Amal said, leaning against the railing. "I never imagined we'd be here, doing this together." Zaydan wrapped his arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "It's been a long road, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. You've shown me the true meaning of partnership." Amal smiled, her eyes reflecting the light of the city. "And you've taught me the importance of standing strong, no matter the odds." As they stood together, watching the world around them, Zayden knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side. Their love had been tested, but it had emerged unscathed, stronger than ever. In that moment, Zayden felt a profound sense of gratitude. They had not only survived the storm, they had learned to dance in the rain. And as they looked towards the future, they knew that together they could conquer anything.